Alright. Say it with me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. So these are the building blocks. You gotta get real comfortable with this thing in order to be able to move on to step 2, which today is step 2. And the first 3 weeks are spaced out intentionally, so you got time to really solidify this and be really, really comfortable with this. And after that, we'll start reading words and cooking. We'll do a little bit of reading words today. The vowels are alpha, epsilon, eta, iota, omicron, upsilon, omega. So that's what the quiz was write the alphabet and write the vowels. And like I said last week, every week there'll be vocabulary. So let me actually real quick give you the outline of today. So there's 3 major topics today about the language that we're looking at. First is pronunciation. So we're going to learn how to sound out words, basically. In Greek, it's really easy if you read English because the pronunciation works the same way. It really is just sound out the letters. All of the letters make a sound. There's there's very, very, very few silent letters in Greek. So few that you basically never encounter them. Syllabification is also quite similar to English. Syllabification, big fancy word that just means how the syllables are formed, right? So each sound unit in a word, syllables in English, every word has a certain number of syllables. So like the word syllables has syllables. So we're going to learn how to syllabify Greek, and then punctuation. Intro to nouns we're not doing today. We're going to do that next week. So really simple. Pronunciation, syllabification, punctuation. It works a lot like English. So it'll be looking at a bunch of letters and trying to figure out, get comfortable sounding out words. Basically, that's the point of today. Vocabulary. 4 words that also the handout there has everything that's on the slides. It's sitting here on the front of the. Everybody got one? 4 big words to know for today's lesson. Iota, subscript. So iota, the letter, right? And subscript meaning small writing. So a tiny iota that sometimes appears under a vowel. And so we'll see what iota subscripts are.
It almost looks like a comma, right?
Yeah, sort of. So the way they're always going to appear most commonly under alpha and eta. And it looks like that. It's a little iota underneath the letter. And I'll explain what those are, how they work, and how they came about. Syllabification, like I already said, how to divide words into syllables, sound groups. So we're going to learn how to syllabify Greek words. And then diphthongs. Diphthongs is a fun, fancy word that you can impress your friends with, or be a nerd with your friends with. Every once in a while I use the word diphthong, and people say, what? It's just 2 vowels together that make a different sound. So, like in the word sound, right? O-U, the letter O makes an aw sound, and the letter U makes an sound, but when they're next to each other, they make the ow sound. Right? So Greek has diphthongs just like that. The 2 vowels together are going to make a different sound than just the 2 letters by themselves. So we'll talk through those. And then breathing marks. This is one of the harder parts as far as learning how to read the language. Recognizing a breathing mark. There's a rough breathing mark and a smooth breathing mark. And so sometimes it's doing nothing, and sometimes it's telling you add an H sound at the beginning of this word. So we'll look at those and figure out how to differentiate them. So everybody at least clear on the definitions of these things. You don't have to understand the concepts behind them yet, but if I use the word...
How do you say the word? It was on the homework, and it's the 2 dots, and it says a diphthong does not...
Oh, a diaresis.
Say that again.
Diaresis.
Diaeresis.
Yeah.
I could not pronounce that. I tried to say it 50 times.
I had to Google that word.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I should have
and
done
here
that.
You can touch the pronunciation.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, we'll talk about diaresis also. I think that's it in there. I probably should have done it in the vocab section. Pronunciation. Like I said earlier, Greek pronunciation is really simple because just like in English, you just sound out the word. And even better than in English, when in English, there's so many words that you sound it out and you're going to pronounce it wrong if you just sound it out. Greek, every letter makes the same sound pretty much every time, and you just sound out the word and you're going to be pronouncing it correctly. So let's get some. So we did a little bit of this last time, right? We tried sounding out a few words. I'm going to get a few sample letters or sample words. Do one that we did at the end of last week. Somebody sound it out for me. I heard the first syllable, math.
Mathy.
Close. Mathetes. Ada makes the A
Oh,
like the word hey, right? So yeah, mathetes means disciple. Let's go with an easy one that everybody knows. Logos. Yeah. In the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. One other easy one that everybody knows. Theos, yeah. In the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was Theos. Right? God. We'll go with these three words as our sample words as we're going through. Letters are pronounced like the initial sound in their name. This is why it's best to learn the names. So when you're learning alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, whatever the first sound of the name of the letter is, that's the sound the letter makes. So zeta makes a z sound, kappa makes a k sound, lambda makes a l sound, all the way down the row, every letter. So if you know the name of the letter, then you know the sound it makes. One of the very few weird or silent or strange things of pronunciation in Greek is gamma nasal. When followed by a gamma, kappa, chi, or xi, gamma is pronounced like an N. The easy one to talk about with that is now, if you were just sounding this out, every single letter, it would look like a-g-g-elas. But you don't say a-g-g-elas, you say ong-elas. So, whenever you see gamma gamma, or gamma kappa, or gamma chi, or gamma xi, the first gamma acts like an N. So like, I don't even know if this is actually a word, but
yeah, the gamma on the slide is weird.
it's just weird looking.
Yeah.
Because of the font. I'm going to try and mix up some fonts so you see various Greek fonts so you don't get just used to this exact way. Same way that you can recognize English fonts, I want you to be able to recognize Greek fonts.
Why don't you like the gamma on the screen?
For a second, I thought it looked like a new. It's kind of a V shape.
Oh, the tail's not long enough for you.
Yeah.
Somebody sound this out for me.
Ingosco.
It's good. Close, but no. agnosko. Right?
Agnosko.
Yeah. So this is the one that trips everybody up, because you'll often see gamma noon and think to yourself, oh yeah, the gamma rule, right? The gamma nasal. And it's when gamma is before these four letters. Gamma, kappa, chi, and xi. So you'll see this a few times. Gnosko. Agnosko, meaning like agnostic, where we get our word agnostic. Without knowledge. There's one other one that I was going to highlight. I can't remember what it was, so I'll think of it later and come back to it. Everybody kind of clear on the gamma nasal?
What's an example with a different one where it gets the N sound, like with the E or C or... What's the last one?
Somebody wants to go there in the chapter and see if there's one. I'm going to look in the dictionary in the back.
What's the last letter? Oh, that's the C. So that's gamma.
Gamma, kappa.
They use Angelos.
Yeah.
Key.
Yeah.
C.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't see it very frequently, honestly.
Don't worry about it then. Okay. That's
There,
fine.
okay, there's one. Oh yeah, that's a good thing. So a lot later when we get to other verbs. That's an epsilon, and that's an alpha. Sorry, writing sideways. All right. Egg catalepo. This would actually be pronounced more like encatalepo. So
Okay. I see.
encatalepo instead of egg catalepo. So it turns into an N, but it's still got like that.
So I would
kind of
normally,
nasally-
I would think to read it as egg,
Right.
ka, but
It's-
it's eng.
It's encatalepo, yeah. And it's almost just natural because when you try and put the gamma up next to these letters, it just naturally kind of goes into your nose. That's why I call it a gamma nasal. But yeah, you don't see it super frequently. It's just enough that it trips you up when you do see it. Breathing marks. Rough and smooth. Breathing marks appear at the beginning of words that start with vowels, and sometimes a row will have a breathing mark. So, if a word starts with a vowel, such as our word that we've already seen, angelos. Any word that starts with a vowel is going to have either a rough breathing mark, which looks just like a C, tiny little C, or it's going to have a smooth breathing mark, such as like a word like
That one's got a smooth breathing mark.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just using it as an example. But yeah, angelos has a smooth breathing mark. I guess, yeah, I should have put an actual example of a rough breathing mark down here, huh? Let's go with hagios. that make sense?
Hmm?
So the rough breathing mark that looks like a C tells you put an H here. Hagios means holy. Smooth breathing mark means no H. Just pronounce this vowel like a normal vowel. And this is true of all vowels. Alpha, epsilon, iota, eta, omega. Any of those appear at the beginning of the word. It's going to have either a rough breathing mark or a smooth breathing mark. And it's just telling you. That's how you make an H in Greek. There's a rough breathing mark.
So smooth is backward C and rough is C.
Yes, exactly. You think of the way I remembered is C makes a, and so that tells you to put an H on it. When you're looking at a C, it makes a. That's the only way I
I
remember.
said the C's can get rough.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
And so whenever you see a rough one, you put an H.
Yep.
Whenever you see a smooth one,
You just read it like it's not there.
so it's just kind of.
It's just there to let you know. Yeah, we didn't forget to put a rough breathing mark here.
Okay.
We remembered. It's a
So
smooth
whenever
mark.
there's a vowel, it's going to have one. Either way.
Whenever there's a vowel at the beginning of a word. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Every single time. There'll always be either a rough or a smooth breathing mark. Only appear over vowels at that beginning word. Hey, look at that. Rough opens to the right, looks like a tiny C, makes a hard H sound. Smooth opens to the left, looks like a tiny backward C, does not change pronunciation. Last point though, it is essential to the spelling of a word. There are some words that are spelled the exact same way, and the only difference is whether it's a rough breathing mark or a smooth breathing mark. A very common example that trips a lot of Greek students up after about year one is the letter He. This is a word on its own, and if it has a smooth breathing mark, it means one thing. If it has a rough breathing mark, it means another thing. And then we're about to get to accents. If it's got a smooth breathing mark and an accent like that, it means one thing. If it's got a smooth or it's got a rough breathing mark and an accent like that, it means another thing. So there's 4 different ways that the letter He can have 4 different meanings, and it all depends on the breathing mark. And in this case, the accent also. That's very rare that the accent changes.
Can you tell us the meanings? Just I'm curious.
See if I can remember all 4 of them. Rough breathing mark by itself is the definite article for the singular feminine. So the word the when it's on a singular feminine noun. Smooth breathing mark is the word or in some situations. Rough breathing mark with a circumflex is hos. So there's a means the word which or
Oh
that.
man, they're like way off from each other.
Yeah. So they're completely different meanings depending on the context they're in. That's all way down the line. But all that to say, the breathing mark is essential to the spelling of the word. You gotta remember whether it's rough or smooth. And the way you remember that is just by when you memorize the word, you hear yourself pronouncing an H at the beginning of it. You're gonna remember, oh yeah, rough breathing mark. Okay. That very few students have real trouble with that down the line. It'll click in pretty quick. Diphthongs are a little bit tougher for most people. Diphthongs. Somebody remind me what a diphthong is?
2 vowels that make a different sound.
Yeah, 2 vowels that put together make a different sound than the original 2 vowels made. There are 8 possible diphthongs in Greek. They are as follows. What I want you to do is try and see a pattern here, okay? A-I, E-I, put them in the same order up there, O-I, and U-I. A-U, U, O-U, Ada. You. All right. You see a pattern? Roughly, right? What's always at the end of a diphthong?
Iota or upsilon.
Iota or upsilon, yes. Always an either an iota or an upsilon. What's at the beginning of all of the, or at least 6 of them?
Soft. Alpha,
Yeah.
epsilon.
Alpha, epsilon, omicron, and then these are the 2 outliers. So there's a little bit of consistency. It has to do with basically how wide your mouth is open when you're saying them. That's just really what it comes down to. But the way they're pronounced is fairly similar to how they are in English. So, like the word 8 in English. Pronounced the same way. A. The word feud. You. The word. We already mentioned this one earlier. Sound. Ow. And you can find pretty much English equivalents for all of them except for Ada. So let's go ahead and go through and pronounce them also. Alpha iota sounds like I. So like the word aisle, like center aisle, right? A-I-S-L-E. A, like the word 8. Ow, as in like sauerkraut. Ew, as in like feud. Oi, as in like oi. We, as in like sweet. Like S-U-I-T-E. Sweet. Okay. Ow, as in like sound. A-U, really when you actually are pronouncing this, it sounds a whole lot like epsilon. U, it sounds almost exactly the same as far as how it's pronounced. It's just spelled differently. So you can try and hit the Ada a little bit stronger and have it be ew, but U is so this takes a little bit of getting used to. Again, it starts to come pretty naturally once you just start reading, and the goal is to just get comfortable reading as fast as possible. So we're going to sit down and just start sounding out First John, or John, the Book of John together at the end of today. So, it will kind of just fall into place for you. There are some things that you got to remember down the line that when words are changing spelling. So, like I mentioned last time, Greek, the way that you change a meaning in a word is you change the spelling at the beginning or the end, usually. One particular word in Greek, like logos, say, you take off the letters at the end and add different letters, or you add letters at the beginning to change whether or not you mean whether or not you mean my book or your book, or the book is in something, or the book is with something, or the word, I should say. So diphthongs sometimes run up against one of these letter changes that is trying to communicate a different meaning, and you gotta recognize that it's a diphthong that's interacting with the change in spelling, not just a single vowel. That kind of makes sense? You kind of have to treat diphthongs as if they're a single vowel unit when you're dealing with changes in spelling. That's the only reason that we actually even bring this to your attention. Because pronunciation, it kind of sorts itself out, but when you get down and when letters start appearing and disappearing and spelling starts changing, the diphthongs act a little bit weird. So you got to remember that that's a diphthong and it's acting like one vowel, even though it's two. that's a little bit above your pay grade right now, but in about 6 weeks, I'll mention it again and be like, oh yeah, I remember you mentioned diphthongs, acting like a single vowel. Yeah. Questions on diphthongs? I think I already covered most of this. Pronunciation. Pronounce diphthongs like two separate letters smushed together, so they act like a single vowel, like we just talked about. See the pronunciation examples. Page 10 might not be accurate. I think that's the page numbers for the old grammar. So you want to tell me what page they're on so I can update this? I've been trying to catch all of the page numbers in my slides, but this couple of them are sneaking through.
Page 11 and 12.
11 and 12.
Bless.
Thank you.
I knew there was one more coming.
Iota subscripts. You notice 4 of those diphthongs ended in an iota, right? When a diphthong is formed from words changing their spelling by an iota being added at the end of the word. So I know that was a lot of setup. So trying to think of a. Let's go with aura. Right. So this is a word in Greek, aura. It means time or hour, right? When the letters change and you add letters on, one of the times that it's going to come about is the rule is going to tell you add just an iota at the end of it. And what happened is, throughout Greek history, they got to where they didn't like writing out alpha iota. And so they realized that's a diphthong, and what we're going to do is we're just going to take that little iota and slip it in underneath the alpha. And so that happened a lot. Usually you'll see this iota subscript at the end of the word because of that. Because it would be a very constant, like, the letters change, an alpha is supposed to go at the end of this, or an iota is supposed to go at the end of this word, but it comes up against another vowel that it's going to form a diphthong with. And so we just shrink the iota and slip it under the letter. As just a function of history and time playing itself out in the language and it changing. So that's why iota subscripts exist. You don't really need to remember that. Just remember that they exist and recognize them when they happen. Well, they're really actually quite helpful because it helps you to remember certain conjugations, certain meanings of words when the spelling changes. You'll see an iota subscript and you'll go, this won't make sense, but you'll go, oh, that's a singular dative. And that phrase will make sense to you in a week. You're going to go, oh, that's a singular dative because there's an iota subscript. I know it doesn't make sense right now, but that sentence, that'll be helpful later. Everybody say, oh, that's a singular dative because of the iota subscript.
Oh,
That's singular dative.
Yeah,
Because of the subscript.
Because of the iota subscript. Yeah, exactly, right, you're with me. Okay.
Singular, what is the word you're saying?
Singular dative. Singular dative. That'll make That'll make sense next week. We'll get to that.
Dative?
Dative.
Is that one of those grammar words that I should have learned for English?
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah. The pronunciation is the same as if the iota were absent. So, this word is pronounced aura, not ori. Even though, historically, it was ori, they just kind of fell out of use, and then they started slipping the iota underneath, and they started pronouncing it aura. Does that track? So when you see an iota subscript, all it's telling you is something about spelling or meaning, not telling you anything about pronunciation. All right. This is a little tedious. So that's basically all of the rules of pronunciation. The only weird things are diphthongs, iota subscripts, and the gamma nasal. Everything else, it's sounded out. It's going to sound exactly like it's spelled. Pretty straightforward. Along with pronunciation, syllabification. Any last questions on pronunciation before we move on? No? Okay. Greek syllabifies the same way English does. You simply sound out the words and it will tell you what the syllables are. The clap method that you learned in 3rd grade. Right? You clap every time you make a new sound in a word. So let's just pick a word like table. How many syllables are there? You go
2.
table, right? Same thing. 1 syllable per vowel or diphthong is the technical way you can tell. But I like the clap method. It works. So look at some examples. Angelos. Somebody pronounce this word for me. It's got all those tricky letters, right?
Is that 3 straight vowels?
Nope.
No, it's alpha, mu, eta, nu.
Alpha, mu, eta, noon. Yeah, okay, you know all the letters. So alpha, mu, eta, noon, amen. Yeah. Amen.
Oh gosh.
Amen. Amen, amen, lego humin. Truly, truly, I say to you. That's what he's saying there. So, amen. Nice. Let me pronounce this one for me.
Anthropos?
Anthropos, yeah. Anthropos. That might trip you up a little bit, right? Because you got the theta in there that makes like 2 letters in English, but you still you sound it out and it sorts itself out, right? Last one. Somebody other than Brad.
Eschatos.
Eschatos, yeah. Last things. Eschatology, study of last things, or last, really. So, eschatos. Really simple. Follow your heart and you'll do fine with syllabification.
It's like a terrible...
Did we say it with the accent Mark did?
No, we didn't. I think accents are coming up next.
Okay.
Yeah. Punctuation. So, all of the, punctuation in English we know, right? Commas, apostrophes, quotation marks, question marks, periods. All the little extra stuff to tell you how the language is functioning. There's 4 major punctuation marks in Greek. Comma, period, semicolon, and question mark. And this is what they look like. Period and comma look just like they do in English. Semicolon looks like the top half of a regular colon in English. And the question mark looks like a semicolon in English. So that's kind of weird. Takes a little bit of time to train.
So does it have the quotation marks, or are you just saying this is in quotation? It looks like a comma is regular.
Yeah.
Okay.
The quotation marks aren't part of the actual mark.
Okay.
I'm trying to. Yeah. Well, and so periods often will appear. Sometimes they won't. You just got to figure out where the end of the sentence is based on context. Commas, same thing. Question marks. Question marks are usually there. The translators will put in a question mark for you. But again, it looks like a semicolon. So that one, again, it's pretty straightforward. It's the newness of reading the Greek letters makes this really simple. Like you come across a semicolon or something that looks like a semicolon, and you immediately go, oh yeah, that's a question mark, because it's just so weird. So that'll sort itself out also. Apostrophe. So sometimes you'll see a sky comma, right? An apostrophe indicates that a final vowel has been dropped for smoother reading. So you'll see this fairly often, particularly with the word dia. Dia means through or therefore. And so dia gets used quite often in Greek, and it'll often be dia, and then a word that starts with a vowel. And so they'll drop the final alpha. Instead of saying dia ongalos. I don't think that would ever happen, but instead of saying both of those things, dia ongalos, they'll say, oh, we want to smooth that out and make it faster. So they'll spell it and pronounce it like this. Maybe diangelos. And just kind of run the words together. So again, not particularly earth-shattering or crazy. You can kind of see why they do it and how it came about. You just kind of got to be aware of it. When you see an apostrophe at the end of a word, you got to recognize a letter's disappeared, and it's a vowel usually, and then keep moving. Is that right?
How do you pronounce the example?
So the two words are apa and mu, and the way you would pronounce it with the apostrophe would be apemu. So to avoid that apa, emu, that kind of like that glottal stop where you're choking on your tongue, kind of, you just say apemu.
So the new is silent.
No, that's a upsilon.
That's an upsilon.
Sound.
That's a diaphragm.
Yeah, that's a diphthong. Ooh. And diaresis, we already mentioned. Diaresis indicates that what looks like a diphthong should be pronounced as two separate vowels. Very, very rarely do you see diaresis. Usually it's in names like this one. Azaias. You can guess what Old Testament character this is? Isaiah, right? So they're trying to keep the Hebrew pronunciation a little bit in the Greek. And that's most of the time when you see a diaresis, it's a word from another language that's coming over into Greek, and they're trying to preserve the pronunciation a little bit. Accents. So this is what you're getting at. 3 accents in Greek. They're always going to appear above a vowel. Vowels are the letters that get all of the fun stuff. Consonants pretty much just are normal old letters. They make the sound they make and they do what they're going to do. And vowels are the ones that get the special treatment. I'm just writing an alpha as a sample letter. There's 2 different ways to write a circumflex. The meaning doesn't change at all. Pure preference of the scribe and how he's going to write it. So, acute, grave, and circumflex. I'm going to change the font there so find one that's. What did I do? There we go. Oh, that's why, because my font's disappeared. Let's try Calibri. Okay, I'll find one later. Pretend that's got a circumflex like that on it instead of a squiggly line. Accents are used to indicate a specific type of pronunciation, up or down. This is kind of contested. So some Greek scholars will say when you see an acute accent, you're supposed to kind of bring it up a little. So if you see, we're just going to use our word that we've been using all day. So if you see Angelos. Or if you see Angelos. Some people will say that. That's kind of a contested idea. What it really just lets you know is where the stress goes. So if it's like that, Angelos. Or if the accent were here, how would you pronounce it?
Angelos.
Angelos, right? So accent will change based on how it's being used in a sentence and what sort of spelling changes have occurred to the root word. And so there are all kinds of very advanced rules you can learn to remember exactly when an accent moves and where. The best thing to do is memorize, when you're memorizing your vocabulary list, if it's got an accent in it, memorize it with that force, like train your brain to go, Angelos. And I didn't do a very good job of this when I learned Greek, so I'm constantly messing up my accents. But Angelos, instead of memorizing as Angelos, if you just memorize it with the accent in the way that you pronounce it, Angelos, then you'll have a much smoother time remembering how accents work. They don't actually change the meaning or anything. They're pretty much just they're just there for pronunciation, for smoothing out, to let you know this is how the sentence should kind of flow. Or very, very rarely do they change the meaning. Like that example with the 4 different etas is one time when the accent changes the meaning. But the vast majority of the time, an accent just tells you this is how it should be pronounced. And it doesn't change, it doesn't change, it's not intrinsic to the spelling of the word, like the rough breathing mark is. Like, Angelos with an accent means the same thing as Angelos without an accent, whereas Hongelos is not a word. Right? That's not a word in Greek. But Angelos with a smooth breathing mark is. Is that a track? So those are the 3 accent types. Like I said, circumflex, pick the one you like better. I generally write it like this, but most grammars generally print it like that. All it tells you is stress this letter. Even again, some grammarians will say, "Oh yeah, the circumflex is supposed to tell you, like, if you see a circumflex, then you're supposed to go Angelos, like change the accent based on the way the circumflex looks." That's very much speculation. I think modern Greek, they still have accents, if I'm not mistaken, but they mostly just hit the letter.
Spanish, in spelling, they still use the circumflexes too.
Yeah, right, for the enye.
Yeah.
Yeah, most Latin-based languages, at least, I think even most non-Latin-based languages have accents as just part of the language. English is very unique in that it does not.
So those are the 3 accents.
Those are the 3
They
accents.
only go on vowels.
They only go on vowels.
And we don't really need to worry too much.
Yeah, they don't change the meaning at all. They just
Okay.
change the pronunciation. To let you know, stress this letter. So to finish up,
There's speculation between the 3 of.
yeah. People who have way too much time on their hands will argue about how they were pronounced in olden times. But let's go look at the Book of John together. Let's just start reading and trying to get used to sounding out the letters. I think he prints out like John 1:1 in your workbooks, but I'll have it up here on the screen if you want to read along up here. Come on, Logos. Let's pump this out. Okay. This is what we're reading. Capital letter pretty much only appears at the beginning of a book, or sometimes the beginning of a chapter, just for the printer's sake. But read along with me. N R K. Okay, rough or smooth breathing mark?
Rough.
Smooth.
Smooth, right? So, ain.
And
Rough or smooth breathing mark?
rough.
So it's pronounced
Ho.
ha. Yeah.
Ha.
So, in arche ain ha lagos. Alright. Yeah, say that one more time. In
Arche.
arche
Okay.
ain ha lagos. Nice. And to get the accents in here, so it'd be in arche ain ha lagos. You hear the emphases.
And okay. And aga.
Kai.
Kai.
So that's a diphthong, right? Kai ha
Lagos.
lagos. We've already seen this word.
Ain.
Ain. Alright, tough one. Confusing letters.
Frost.
Real
Cross.
close. Pros.
Cross.
Pros.
Ton.
Ton.
Theos.
Theos.
They.
Theon.
Theon. Yeah.
Theon.
So in arche and halagos, in the beginning was the word. Kai halagos, and the word. Ain pros ton theon was towards God. Was with God. We already know all these words, so somebody read it for me.
Theos.
Nice.
Ain.
Ain
Halagos.
halagos, yeah. Kai theos, ain halagos. And God was the word.
Can you say that all at once?
Yeah.
So I can hear what it sounds like.
In arche ain halagos, kai halagos ain pros ton theon, kai theos ain halagos.
That's easy.
Let's go one more.
Out.
Yeah, I think I might have told you guys to pronounce this wrong. It's u. It's utas.
Utas.
And it's a rough breathing mark, so it's
Hutos.
hutas.
Utas.
Hutas.
Ain.
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 And
N.
Haroke.
Ar. Ar.
In arche, yeah, same thing.
Pros.
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 Theon.
Theos.
Yeah, theon. Hutas ain in arche pros ton theon.
He was in the beginning.
Which, or who was in the beginning, pros ton theon, with God, towards God. Alright, this is the last one we'll do together, and then we'll call it Panta. Yeah.
D.
So you remember what the apostrophe does, right? There's a letter missing there. So
Diatu.
you run these together, yeah.
Diatu.
Yeah, Panta diatu.
Panta diatu.
Diatu.
Egenita.
Egenita.
So Panta diatu egenita.
Kai.
Kai.
Giro. Girosis.
Real close. So that's a chi, not a gamma.
Chios.
So choris.
Horis. That was not close.
Kai choris. Autu
Two.
egenita.
Genata. Ude. U.
Ude. Yeah,
Ude.
nice.
Ode.
In.
Hen.
Chen, right? Rough breathing mark.
Nice.
Ho.
Ha.
Ha.
So, Giggling.
Yeah.
Giggling.
Geganin.
Giggling.
Okay. So,
Panta di autu agenita, kai choris autu agenita udechen. Ha geganin. Or ha geganin. Geganin. Got my accent wrong. Chen means one. In means in. Right, so rough breathing mark versus smooth breathing marks can change the meaning of the word. How y'all feel?
I'm in the fog.
You're in the fog.
I feel like it's pretty easy, other than the fact that I didn't learn my letters well enough this week.
Right, so
But if I would have done that, I could have totally
That-
pronounced that.
Yeah.
just keep drilling the alphabet. Like I said, next week is really light as far as content. Like we're just gonna be like overviewing the concept of nouns. So you got time to really drill the alphabet and really get comfortable sounding out words.
The alphabet's tougher than what we went. The accents and on the pronunciations that we went over today. I feel
Yeah.
like.
And next week will even be simpler. So
I've downloaded like extra stuff to help me too, like Duolingo,
oh
Yeah.
cool, okay.
and some other, and it's another app. I wanted to share with you guys.
I found a corny song on YouTube and listened to it the whole way here.
Yeah.
Oh, for
You wanna sing it for us?
I don't know it.
Quizlet.
Oh,
Who knows?
yeah.
Is he
Dude,
just
Quizlet got me through college a few years back.
So yeah, modern Greek apps will probably be telling you pronunciation different than what we're using in here, which is fine. But you just gotta be aware of when I'm pronouncing something differently.
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta,
I
eta,
literally listened to that. It's only 45 seconds long, and I have a 25-minute drive.
Nice. So yeah, just practice reading. That's the homework. You can. So let me show you. If you want to buy a Greek New Testament, I highly encourage it. But you can get the Greek text if you go to BibleGateway.com. One of the versions you can use is if you go all the way down to Koine. See? Koine. I would recommend the SBL, Greek New Testament. And you can go to any book in the New Testament and say, John. Let's go John 1. There you go. So you can practice reading. Just start reading. And that's just as comfortable as you can get with that. You can also... I know that they're out there. I can't point you directly to one, but there are people who are there are audio files of people just reading the Greek New Testament, so you can be listening to somebody pronounce it as you read along and try to pronounce it, and that's really helpful to catch yourself on those ones that stuff that's going to constantly be a problem for you. Os, you're always going to want to go os for a long time, and keeping those separate, keeping Omicron like an A, not an O. Pronouncing
Does double noon make a different sound?
double noon. No, it's just as if it's like two N's next to each other. Where are you seeing that?
In the book title.
Oh, yeah. Kata Yohanein, according to John. But no, yeah, double noon, just like in English, just sounds like a regular old N.
Did you take the languages at CBS?
I did. Yeah.
So is this the same Koine?
Yeah, the language is the same. Unless they've changed grammars, which they might have. I don't know who's teaching it now, because Trace left. But the grammar that we used at CBS was David Allen Black, which that's on the syllabus. If you download the syllabus, I think they might be using Mount's now
Okay.
at CBS. I'm not positive. And I don't know who's teaching it anymore. It might be Logan now.
I think it's Logan and another professor named Dr. Kozar.
Oh, yeah.